Good morning, everyone. Hope you're having a fantastic day. It is Friday. You made it. Great success. Friday is always a lot of fun. Friday's always tough for me because I have a million things to do. I'm working on a big cash game course. It's becoming really big, actually. It's kind of becoming an amalgam of a lot of work, essentially, because I have lots and lots of little things on specific topics. And I'm like, let's talk about when they straddle. Next thing you know, I have 10 slides on straddling. Let's talk about table selection. Next thing you know, I have 10 slides on table selection. It's becoming quite gigantic, but that's okay. So anyway, that'll be a lot of fun. We do have a poker coaching homework webinar today. We're reviewing a 30 big blind situation, very common spot where button raises you defend the big blind. So that'll be a lot of fun. And yeah, it's good. So Louis Philippe sent in a bunch of ideas for Inner Circle, for a Little Coffee Topics. So I figured we'd go through one of them today. A nice, easy one for me to do. I don't know why, but every morning, what's inevitably happening is I'm not getting sat down here until like 8:20. And then I have to go and take a shower. That takes 15 minutes. So now I only have 25 minutes to get the stream set up. That takes 2 or 3 minutes. I usually check an email or two. Maybe I just have to stop checking emails. And next thing you know, I have like 5 minutes to jot down all of this. So we do our 5 minutes of preparation and we're good to go. That does not lead to being able to do such technical topics. But I think it's a-okay to not be doing such technical topics, right? I think it's absolutely fine. Let's see. Ryan says, grinding sit and goes at the moment. Good luck. Good luck in the games. I always wonder, how many people are watching or listening to this if you're grinding a game at the same time? It's probably not the best idea, but it can't be the worst, right? It's better than listening to probably any other podcast type thing. So, Louis Philippe gave me an idea. It's nice and easy for me to talk about because I actually just put it into the cash game class yesterday. Table selection and seat selection. So, let's talk about it. What is table selection? What is seat selection? Well, first things first, a lot of people think table selection and seat selection do not apply to tournaments, but they absolutely do. You do get to select your seat in tournaments sometimes. You do get to you get to essentially figure out when your table breaks and then adjust accordingly. But we'll get to that at the end. Let me write down that in tournament. What are my hobbies? This is not an Ask Me Anything today, Lionel, but I enjoy playing Magic the Gathering, going to the gym, and hanging out with my family. Okay, first things first. You should go to a cash game room, right? We go to play poker. We're going to go play cash games. And now we have to decide which table to play. Let's say you're a 2-5 player. You're bankrolled to play 2-5. Let's say you have $20K in your bankroll. You know, a little bit of low bankroll. What I suggest you do when you go to the casino is to put your name on the 1-2 list, the 2-5 list, and the 5-10 list. Okay? 3 games. All right? You go there and you get 3 games. Get on the list because you never know which table will come up first. What you don't want to do is you don't want to go to the casino, put your name on one list only, and then never get in a game. This will happen at the World Series very frequently. If you go to any poker room in Vegas, very often the lines are through the roof. And if the lines are through the roof, then inevitably you don't know which game you'll get a seat in first. So you want to get on all 3, right? So you typically want to get on the list for the lower buy-in stake and the higher buy-in stake if you're properly bankrolled to some extent. Realize you're supposed to take shots every now and then. So say you have 20K. If you go any buy-in for 1K and you lose it, it's not the end of the world, right? So that's what I would do. If the 5-10 seat becomes available, only take it if it is good, right? Go there, look at the table. If it looks crappy, don't play, right? Or if the only seat available is a very bad seat, don't play, right? Understand you do not have to play just because a seat becomes available. If you do play 2-5 normally and a 1-2 seat becomes available, it's probably always fine to play that, right? Until your 2-5 seat becomes available, in which case you get up and you go to your 2-5 game. So It's very wise to get on many lists. Whenever I used to go to Bellagio every day, I would get on the 5-10 no limit, 10-20 limit, 40-80 limit, 81-60 limit if they had it. And I'd always like start a 25-50 list if they wanted to start it. Because they always had a 5-10 game, they always had a 10-20 game. They always had a 40-80 limit game, which, I mean, I'm perfectly good at limit hold'em. So I'm fine playing it, but I would rather be playing the no limit games. I thought I had a higher win rate. But if you just don't get a seat in 5-10 for an hour, I'd obviously rather play 40-80 limit and make, I don't know, $40 or $80 an hour, as opposed to make no money in that hour, right? So you want to make sure you're utilizing your time well. You need to utilize your time well. So that's what I would do. Next, say you have multiple tables you can get on. So quite often when you go to a live casino, there's going to be a must-move table, which essentially means that you have to go to a table, you have to play at that table until everyone at that table gets moved, okay? So essentially, there'll be one must-move table, then like 2 or 3 or 4 main games, maybe only one main game. Inevitably what happens is people leave from the main game, people from the must-move table go to that one, so they get shuttled around. If that's the case, you don't really get to pick your table at the beginning, but once you do get moved into a main game, or say there are just 2 games and they're the main game, both main games in theory, go and get on the seat change list, and the table change list. As soon as you sit down, tell the floor person, I would like to be on the table change list and the seat change list. Okay? Then what's going to happen is whatever a table change is available, you will have the option to go take it. Again, you don't have to take it. You may be kind of annoying to the floor person. If you feel like you're being a little annoying, tip the floor person $10 or something. It's not a big deal. They will be way happier dealing with you asking, hey, is that seat available over there? If you are also tipping them every once in a while. So that's a good, easy way to, I'm not going to say necessarily preferential treatment, but kind of be able to do whatever you want within reason, right? So that's how you're able to select whatever table you want to play at. And then the seat change, often is based on seniority, who's been at the table longest. But you want to make sure you get the seat that is the best seat at the table within reason, without being overly aggressive, without turning off the bad players. Mark says, or Max says, looks like I drink too much coffee. I don't think I drink too much coffee. I drink like 1 cup a day. 1 cup a day and then some mushroom tea. But that's it. Okay. We get our seat. We get at our table. We don't get to pick our seat because there's only one seat available, right? You tell the dealer you want to be on the seat change list. Usually the floor person handles the table change list. The dealer handles the seat change list. If you're playing online poker, you often can't change seats. Some places you can, some places you can't. If you are playing online poker, you can just get up and move to any other table you want, right? So these lists don't really matter. So you go there and you tell the dealer you want to be on the seat change list. And if a seat comes available that you want to be at, say, I'll take that seat, and move your chips over there physically, as if you are claiming it. You may not actually be first in line, right? If that's the case, somebody else will say, oh, I want that seat instead. Okay, fine, they get to take it. But if you are slightly aggressive with taking it, meaning you just like, all right, I'll take that seat, and you put your chips over there, or you just throw a chip or throw your player's card over there. I'm not going to say you can jump the line, but often people will not contend with it. If they do contend with it, and they rightfully own it, don't make a stink, it's theirs, right? Essentially, you're forcing the issue by not waiting for them to, by waiting for them to take the seat. You are, because what may happen is you don't want a player to come and then that player try to take the seat. Then like, oh, I want that seat, which means I'm willing to inconvenience this player so much because I think this seat's better than this seat. Obviously, I have more information when the new player comes, but it's probably not worth it. You don't really want to create anything that makes the bad players think that they are bad, okay? So, whenever you go to move to, what setup do you want? First things first, chips flow to the left and no limit hold'em, and all games with position, so all poker games. So that means you want big stacks on your right, short stacks on your left. That is highly important, because if you have big stacks on your left and short stacks on your right, you're going to be losing big pots on average, and you're going to be winning small pots on average. So you really want the big stacks on your right, whether they're good or bad, right? Also, in general, you want very loose people on your right, and you want very tight players on your left. Okay? Because when people are tight on your left, if you raise, they're just going to be really straightforward and let you run them over. If they're going to be loose and aggressive, they're going to be 3-betting you and making your life miserable. I mean, if you raise and they call, not a big deal. If you raise and they 3-bet, that's a problem. So you want the loose people on your right so you can capitalize on them playing way too many hands, and you want the tight players on your left. Ideally, you also get the bad players on your right and the good players on your left, but I don't think that is actually the overriding factor, because if you have a very good deep stacked player on your left and you're playing deep stacked and your opponent on the right is really bad who's playing shallow stacked, you're going to get crushed in that game because the good player has position on you and they're going to make your life tough. So, very important to have shallow stacks on your right, shallow stacks on your left, and big stacks on your right. So that's how you want to go about that's how you determine which seat you want. Obviously, maybe the good players are, like, if you had to pick between a good player on your right with a shallow stack and a bad player on your left with a deep stack. What I'm trying to say here is I'm getting a little bit bogged down with all this stuff written down. But essentially, you want to make sure that you're going to be winning big pots and losing small pots. So that's basically it. Let's see. Should you play tighter in cash games where you're playing against anonymous players? You should probably just play fundamentally sound, exploiting the player pool. But anyway, you ideally want straightforward people on your left, whatever that means. And players can be good and straightforward, which is fine, right? They're good but straightforward. They're not getting too out of line and punishing you for trying to play too many pots. It's fine. Not a big deal. Okay. So, how do you go about claiming the seat? Right? How do you go about claiming the seat? Whenever you go to claim the seat, you very often want to blame it on something that is not, I think this is the best seat at the table. You want to blame it on, my sports game is on this TV behind me and I can't see it, so I want to sit over here across the table. Or, oh, this chair's not working very well, let me go over there. Or, I lost 2 pots in this chair, this seat's unlucky. Or, something stinks over here, let me go sit over here. Like, whatever you can come up with. Anything you can come up with that allows you to change the seat without looking like you are trying to pick on the bad players. Because you really don't want to be picking on the bad players, because that will offend the bad players. They may learn to play better, they may quit, whatever. And you really don't want that to happen. Let's see. What level should you enter the Monster Stack event? Well, just Chieftain. Are you good or bad at poker? Do you have good stamina or do you have bad stamina? Those are very important ideas. With the aggressive player on your left, wouldn't it be optimal to be setting traps? Yes, you want the aggressive player on your right, though. If you cannot get the aggressive player on your right, then you're going to have to play kind of tight-ish poker, right? Tight, straightforward poker. We're not going to get into this. We've discussed this plenty over at pokercoaching.com, discussing how to play against maniacs, discussing how to play against tight, aggressive players, etc., etc. We've been through all that, and that's beyond the scope of this talk today. Just Cheapen says, thanks for taking time out of your day to make these videos. Is it a video if it's live? I guess it's a video. Video, audio. Y'all can listen to this on your podcast player, by the way. So look into that if you feel like it. But you're very welcome. I'm happy to help all of you. I love helping people become successful. And then once they are successful, I love helping them stay successful. Too much echo. Yeah, so I'm in a little office. You all may not believe this, but I can almost touch all of the walls in this office with my arms. Okay? And I'm debating whether or not I should put up like a sound barrier on this back wall. I'm not really looking forward to that. It's going to be a bit of a pain, but I think I should probably do it. Ugh, such a lot of work. Yeah, I should probably do that. You're right. I completely agree. So just Stephen, if you're a good stamina and a good player, why would you not show up early? Why does it depend if you're good at bad at poker when you should show up? Because if you're bad, you want to play the fewest hands possible, right? Because every hand you play, you lose money. Listen, if you're a good player, on average, every single hand you play, you win some amount of equity. If you're a bad player, every single hand you play, you lose some amount of equity. So if you're a bad player, you want to buy in as late as possible. Also, whenever you are a bad player, you want to play as shallow stacked as possible because very often it's hard to screw that up, right? So if you're bad, you want to be buying in late. If you're good, you want to be buying in early. When playing short stacks and cash games, isn't it better to have the Maniac on your left? We're already playing a tight range, so doesn't that give you a great opportunity to squeeze, back raise, etc.? Sure. That said, if they raise, you can then 3-bet them and put them in a bad spot. You pretty much always want the aggressive players on your right because that allows you to play way more hands than if you have the aggressive players on your left. And again, you make money every time you play a hand, and if you have to fold a lot of hands, then that's not good, right? Because you're forced to play tighter. James says, thanks for the range charts. You're able to make round 3 of a satellite. Good job, good work. You're very welcome. I don't know where you can get those charts exactly, but you can find them on the internet. But anyway, there are a few reasons to buy in late if you think you're good. 1, you have something better to do with your time. 2, you know you're bad at deep stacked poker. 3, maybe you're bad against playing against bad players, which doesn't make sense. Like, all these things kind of don't make sense, right? If you're good, you play well deep stacked. If you're good, you play well against bad players. And what happens is, if you buy in late, a lot of the bad players are busted already. So in exchange for showing up on time and getting to play lots of smallish pots with bad players, you just don't get that opportunity. So it's basically the question is, say you start with 10,000 chips, would you rather start with let's say 14,000 chips on average at level 8, or would you rather start with the buy-in, 10,000 chips on average at level 8, in exchange for 8 hours of playing? I'd rather start with 14,000 chips. What do you have players who love to cold call behind you? Do you tighten your range or play the same? Depends on the scenario, right? If you follow this solid preflop range charts I have, though, it's tough to go very, very wrong. It's tough to go very wrong. What's the difference between cash and tournaments? I mean, essentially, cash game players typically are way more loose, way more passive, etc. Until you're playing high stakes, right? All right, let's get back to the talk. So, essentially, you want to make sure you're at a good table. You want to be at the best table. How do you determine the best table? That's the table that is active, having fun, or you may be able to pinpoint a specific bad player in the room. Like, say someone's just awful. If you can get the seat to their left, that's going to be very, very good. How long does it take you to know what type of players are at the table? Not long. If you go to a poker room and look around, very often 1 or 2 tables will be throwing a party. They'll be joking, they'll be having fun, everybody will be drinking. That's the table you want to be at. When you get to that table, by the way, don't be someone who destroys that. If everybody there is having a shot or 2 every 5 minutes, maybe you have a shot every hour. If they're not wearing sunglasses, you better not wear sunglasses. If they're talking to each other and having fun, you better talk to each other and have fun. Because if you go to a fun table and you ruin it by being boring, you just killed your own game, right? DP says, follow the Baccarat players. It's a good idea, actually. One thing you definitely want to do when you play poker, tournaments especially, when the tournament is not taking place or when you're out of the tournament, stroll around the casino. See who's playing the pit games, right? That would be very, very good information for you because it tells you a lot about them personally. All right, let's see. What range should you play? I mean, listen. You want to just play better hands than your opponents are going to call you with all sorts of stuff. Ace-Queen is obviously very good. Ace-Jack suited is very good. If they're going to be looking you up wide, you want to play a wider range of strong value hands. You want to play tighter. You want to play less junky stuff. You get a digital copy of my book. Gabriel, I'm not sure what you're asking. Just Cheaton says it's possible to get bad beat early in the tournament. You can't think about that, right? It's possible to get bad beat late in the tournament. I'm not sure exactly how that logic works. But essentially, every time they deal a hand, you extract equity if you're good. And that's it. Sometimes you get bad beat, yeah. Sometimes you bad beat the other guy. So it's just like not a big deal. If you do buy in late, you are way more likely to get min cash, but you're way less likely to win because you're going to get in the money with a smaller medium stack a lot of the time. Whereas if you play early, you'll get into the money with a big or a medium stack more often, which will lead to more deep runs, which is where a lot of the money's won from. Anyway, that's it. What are my thoughts on add-ons and rebuys? If the add-on gives you more chips than the rebuy, obviously you want to make the add-on, period. That's clear, right? If the add-on gives you double your starting stack, clearly you have to get there. A lot of online sites used to do this. Like I know Party Poker or Poker Stars, I think it was like 1,500 chips to start, and then you got 3,000 for the add-on. So you just always had to make the add-on period because you got a bonus, right? All right, So that's it. You want to get a good table and a good seat, and you make that happen. Someone said, you can't select your seat in tournaments. No casino lets you do that. Okay. What are the things you get to decide? You get to decide a few things. First things first, when do you buy in? When do you buy into the tournament? Very important. I'm very, very sure I have like 20 or 30% higher ROI in tournaments than I should because I buy in at the proper time. The proper time to buy into a tournament is when the satellite players are also buying into a tournament. In most tournaments, the way they do this for registration is they will have something like 10 tables open because they don't know how many people are going to show up, right? So whenever the satellite ends, make sure you are buying in at the same time the satellite players are getting bought in. And what will happen is there'll be 10 tables, and there'll be like 20 satellite players registering, and you are guaranteed to have some of those satellite players at your table. And it's well known people who play satellites are typically way worse at tournaments than satellites, because it's a very, very different game. We're not going to go into that, but it's definitively true. So if you want to play with the satellite qualifiers, because they typically are worse players than tournament players, the easy way to guarantee you have at least 2 or 3 probably relatively soft players at your table is to buy in when those players buy in. So right there, you get to select your table, right? If you buy in late, what they used to do, they've actually fixed this, but what they used to do is everybody who bought in late would be put at like the same 2 or 3 tables. And it turns out a lot of good players are a little bit more lackadaisical. They don't care about each individual tournament. And they would all buy in late, and all the good players would be sat at the table together, right? So that was just awful for them. And they realized this, and they eventually changed the system now to where they take seats, or take individual people from each table, and then the late registrants get those seats, and the people who they take away are given a new table. So it's random. It's a good idea. But anyway, you want to be buying in when the satellite players buy in because that guarantees you get seats with players who play satellites. And across the board, players who play satellites typically are worse than the players who play tournaments. Now, again, there are obviously exceptions. I play satellites sometimes, and you may get unlucky and get the table with me. Or lucky, depending on your view of me. But understand who you want to be playing with. You want to be playing with people who don't play a ton of tournaments. Does your satellite comment apply to buying in early, since satellites are often done in the week before the tournament? Yeah, quite often. Depending on the venue, right? If, like, your casino's registering people a long time in advance, you should just buy in whenever they buy in, right? And very often they will do the thing, well, they'll have 2 or 3 or 4 seats available. Sometimes, if they're not doing it right, they'll have 20 people win a seat in the satellite, or 10 people win a seat in the satellite, and put them all at 2 tables. So it's like 5 and 5. Well, you definitely want to be getting on one of those 2 tables, right? Let's see. Folded aces on the first hand of the tournament. That's not a good idea. Don't fold the nuts. Folding the nuts is a bad idea. Don't worry about bad beats. Bad beats happen. Sometimes you lose. All right. Okay. William says, like to buy in the night before. I would tell you to even be more specific, right? And if you understand tournament structures, you can look at a satellite structure, see when it's going to end. So if you know it's going to end somewhere between like 9 and 10 p.m., just go there at 9 or 10 p.m. and you're guaranteed to get the good table draws. Actually, you probably want to register like a hair after the satellite's over, because then the satellite people are already in the queue, right? They already have their seats. What else do you want to buy in? So that's number 1 thing you get to control. You get to control when you buy in. Number 2, you get to control the pace of play and your strategy before your table breaks. So when does your table break? Well, figure it out. Very often it is clearly listed on the tournament clock. Quite often they start with like the high numbers first, or they start with the tables on the outer edge of the tournament area, or whatever. Every casino does it differently. It's not hard to figure out. Figure out when your table is going to break, okay? So, if you know your table is going to not break, you're stuck there, okay? So knowing you're stuck there, how long are you going to be stuck there? Say there's an hour and a half left in the day. You get moved to a table that's not going to break. You look around, and it's all very, very good people. Okay? What's your strategy? Do you get in there and try to battle with them? No. That would be really, really dumb. Because if you just wait and be patient for an hour and a half, you get a new table draw at the end of the day, right? The day ends, everybody gets a new table draw, and you get a random table. This came up, like a beautiful example of this came up for me at Borgata one year, where there were like 100-something people left, and then There were 100-something people left. My table had like 9 other world-class players. Every other table was as soft as could be. So some of these kids were sitting there and battling hard. And I'm like, why are you battling hard? Just sit here, fold, right? Like in theory, if we could just all push a button to blind out, like essentially break even, pack it up and go home, we should probably all do that because our ROI, our expectation is going to be so much higher by simply ending the day, getting a redraw, and moving on with our lives, right? Alternatively, if your table is particularly good towards the end of the day, and you look around the room and the rest of the room's tough, you want to be playing as many pots as you possibly can with these players within reason. You need to be in there fighting hard because this is perhaps the highest ROI situation you're going to have for the rest of the tournament, and you better maximize it. So that's another way. You get to pick your seat, right? So we get to pick our tables, and we get to pick our seats just in a way more constricted way. Let's see. We have a lot of questions about random stuff. Is it a good strategy to pay the bubble? No, don't pay the bubble. Is it a good strategy to widen your range on the bubble because people are afraid to bust? Depends. You definitely don't want to be calling off, but you should be pushing around people. Should you register online for the Colossus? You're paranoid that it might sell out. I don't know if it can sell out. There may be late registrants. If you can buy in now and you're worried about that, sure. I mean, why not? I mean, you have to pay a fee to use your credit card, I think, but probably like $10 or $20. So negligible enough, and then you don't have to worry about the line and it's selling out if that is a thing. So yeah, definitely. I see no reason not to do that, especially for the small buy-in events. You don't want to be paying like 2 or 3% for a $10,000 tournament, but for a $500 tournament, it's just not that big of a deal. Will I be playing any online bracelet events? No. I just have like no real desire. I mean, in terms of expected value, maybe they have good expected value, maybe they don't. I don't want to deal with having to... I mean, if I could play on my iPad, maybe I would. If I could play on my iPad at the table, I would. I don't know if I can or not, having looked into it. I know the last few years, like I don't want to be playing a $1,000 tournament on my iPad when I'm playing a $10,000 tournament live. That just doesn't make sense to me. So if that's the case, no. But if there's like a 1,500 live and a 3K online, and I can play it on my iPad, then I'll do that. But I know I tried playing one year and they had the geolocation thing wasn't working properly, and then last year I think I wasn't even there for one of them or something. I don't know. Anyway, it never lined up right, but if it lines up right, sure. Let's see. How many events do I plan on playing this year? I don't know. I don't really have a plan. I mean, I have a schedule, but the schedule very often gets adjusted because the tournaments all overlap, right? Like I'll have a tournament on Monday and Tuesday and Wednesday and Thursday, and you end up skipping half of them if you make day 2s or whatever. So I have a schedule, but I don't exactly know which ones I actually will play. Speaking of that, I'm considering a giveaway. Let me all know if you'd be interested in this. We're considering a giveaway where we will give away 1% of all of my World Series of Poker caches. We'll just give it away to someone. It'll be a random raffle. If you're all interested in that, let me know. If you don't care, then let me know that too, and I'll save 1%. But basically, we will have, I think it's going to be something like 70 or 80K in buy-ins, assuming I don't play the 100K, which I will if it's soft. If it's not soft, I won't. But, I don't know, we'll end up giving away, it's only worth like $700 or something in face value, but it seems like a fun thing, right? Everybody can sweat and have fun. Do you recommend moving up in stakes or multi-tabling? Multi-tabling. You don't want to just move up in stakes and play one table. That's a big mistake. You always want to be multi-tabling online because you get to play way more hands, and that gets you through variance. You figure the odds with ace-ace bad is bad 5 ways. You don't want to play bingo. Oh boy. Let's get out Equilab. Again, this is not bingo. Let's say it's 5 ways, right? You're putting in 20% of the money. Let me show you what I'm doing in Equilab if you all can see this. We have pocket aces. And then let's give our opponents, what are their getting in ranges? Do you all have any idea what their getting in ranges are? Let's give them actually just good cards, okay? Let's presume they're not total lunatics. Let's give them suited connectors because maybe they're kind of lunatics. You all can't see this on Instagram, but I'm doing this. Let's just give them all of this range for simplicity. We're going to get it in 5 ways. We're putting in 20% of the money, okay? And we get back 49% of the money. Holy moly. Let's get out a calculator. Listen, this is a $1,000 tournament, okay? The way you do this, we get out a calculator. We have $5,000 worth of chips in the pot, right? $5,000 divided by, no, what are we doing? $5,000 times 0.49. This is how much of the pot we own. Minus the 1,000 we're putting in. That means by calling, you make $1,450. That means you have, right off the bat, on the first hand of the tournament, 145% return on investment. Are you kidding me? That's like huge. That is incredibly huge. That's insane. You cannot have more than 145% return on investment in almost any tournament. Even if your opponents are awful, even if the structure is amazing, even if you're the best player in the world. So don't turn that down. When you table select, do you view players in terms of their skill levels or in terms of styles? Stylistic is often more important, right? You want the aggressive people on the right, you want the tighter players on the left. All right, let's see. Should you pay the bubble? No. Well, you should pay the bubble if you're the shallow stack, if you're the one who's likely to bubble. If you're likely to bubble, then you should definitely do that. Let's see. Are you interested in a free roll? Some people are saying no. Oh, good. So people do want a free roll. Good. We've been doing a lot of giveaways. I think I've given away something like $10,000 over the last 6 or 8 months to all of you. Hopefully, some of you have collected it. But I'm always happy to give away money. We're in the position to do it, so we might as well. What factors lead you to choose not a seat at the table? Like I said, say you have 20K or 30K to your name, you're playing 2-5, you're well bankroll for your 2-5 game because you think maybe you need like 15K for your actual bankroll. You're not concerned with actually making money and cashing out, you're concerned with building your bankroll and building your skills. In that scenario, you should get on the 1-2, the 2-5, and the 5-10 game. Say the 5-10 game has a seat open. You look at the table, it's all random people you don't know. And listen, if you go to the casino on a regular basis, which I'm kind of making the assumption, you know who are regulars and who are not. You can also look and see, is everybody throwing a party at the table? Are they drinking and having fun? Or are they like sitting there serious? If they're throwing a party, then yeah, you probably want that table. If they're all very serious or they're all good regulars, you don't want that table, right? Whenever you're taking shots, you want to take shots when the game is soft. That's usually going to be late night hours, or usually it's going to be just randomly, right? Like you show up and you see who's there. For all I know, maybe the regulars in your game are terrible, right? If that's the case, then you just want to be getting in there as soon as you possibly can. But if the game is bad, I won't play. This came up at Bellagio 2 summers ago. I went to go play 10-20 or 20-40 or 50-100, any of them. No limit. And I go there, and I get in a 10-20 game. I look at the table. It's awful. Literally all European kids. This is the must-move table. Some of the other tables looked fine, but they didn't look like they were breaking anytime soon. And again, how do you know that? Because you know the players, you know their tendencies, you know like all the regs there stay till 10 p.m. and it's like 2 p.m., so they're not leaving. So that's terrible, right? So what did I do? Did I sit and I play that game? No, I just didn't even play it because I don't expect to have much of an edge over a bunch of 25-year-old Scandinavian kids. So I hung out for another hour or so. The 20-40 game looked okay. The seat never opened up though. Game never opened. And they just let the list get long. I asked the floor person, they tell you this, are you going to start another 20-40 game? They said, no, we don't have tables for it because Bellagio was full. So I packed it up and went home. I went to the casino, I looked at the game, I waited an hour and change, and I didn't get to play. Is that smart? Well, what's the alternative? Sit there and play a game with no edge, so you're just paying rake. Would I rather pay rake to get experience? Maybe I should. And have a lot of variance, by the way, because you're going to have a lot of variance against the Scandinavian kids. Or would I rather just pass, right? If I'm playing purely to try to grow my bankroll and make money, I don't want variance, and I don't want to pay the rake. So you don't play it. Something I learned a long time ago in one of Tommy Angelo's books, I think his first book, I think it's called Elements of Poker. There was a story in there where basically said he drove like 2 hours into the casino, I'm making some of this up or recalling some of this poorly, drove 2 hours to the casino, waited for a while to get in the game, got in the game, looked at the table, realized it was no good, packed it up and drove 2 hours home. And that's what you need to do, right? Especially if you're not, look, I'm a pretty good poker player. I think I'm probably going to break even against the Scandinavian kids. Maybe I'll even beat them for a little bit. But I would rather spend an hour reading a book or relaxing my mind for the next day, right? And that's because, just like, what am I trying to do? I'm not playing to play, I'm playing to make money, right? If you're playing to play, it's a very different story. And, if you're not the best player in the game or not one of the best players in the game, you should be even more selective, right? because you're going to find yourself in worse games more often. Mark says on the ace hand 5 ways. Most people only see that they're not a favorite. The fact that they're out of the tournament the majority of the time is a deal breaker for many. Well, you have to get over that if you care about winning money. Let's give one more range. Let's really make you not a favorite. Say we're getting it all in 6 ways now. Now you only have 41% of the equity. Okay? So what is now 6,000 times 0.41 equals? Minus the 1,000 we're putting in. So now we make an extra 1% ROI for fun. If somebody else pops their head in there, we get another 1% completely for free. You want more people in the pot. And a lot of people don't get that. They think, oh, I'll be out. But listen, you're going to be out sometimes. That is part of life. In the money, 70 players. You have 10 big blinds. If you're already in the money, good. You have ace-king, shove. Easy shove. How many non-regulars do you need a table for you to sit in it? Depends on how bad the non-regular is, right? Depends on what they look like, too. Because what is a regular? Is a regular someone I know? There are plenty of regulars who are not good. I mean, I used to start 10-20 no limit at Bellagio every day at noon with all regulars, but they weren't particularly good, right? So I'm happy to play with all those regulars. Again, I think a lot of people don't understand what a regular means. A regular, for those who don't know how to Google the definition, is someone who regularly plays. Doesn't say anything about their skill level. There are good regulars and there are bad regulars. At Bellagio at 10-20 every day, it was mostly good regs and marginal regs. They weren't terrible, but they still weren't good, and I expected to have a good edge. There are also players who you don't know, right? Like I think I knew 2 of those Scandinavian kids at that 10-20 table out of the 9 there, or the 8 there. I still didn't play, because you can just look and tell. He looks like he knows what he's doing. He's looked like he knows what he's doing, right? So these aren't regulars in my game, but I don't want to play with them, just purely based on, I guess, stereotypes, right? But anyway, I like to have 1 or 2, at least 1 or 2 very bad players, ideally. But if everyone's just worse, that's fine too. Like the 10-20 game when I started, I thought everyone, or the vast majority of everyone, was just a little bit worse. Kevin says, Joel, you have to win some flips sometimes. That is true. What are some of the simplest things you can adjust to World Series tournaments? Realize that you're playing a different game. Study ahead of time. Understand how to play shallow stacks. So many people who come from the cash game arena are awful at playing shallow stacked. So often you see good cash game players chipping up very, very well early in tournaments because they're playing deep stacks against marginal deep stack players. But then they get crushed late in the tournament because then they're playing shallow stacked very poorly against marginal shallow stacked players. And that's enough to bust you. Let's see. Is it not good to play in hard games to get better? I prefer to study to get better. Studying is my preferred way to get better because it inevitably teaches you to play fundamentally sound, which will allow you to compete perfectly fine against tough players. Like I said, in that Scandinavian game, would I be willing to pay the rake and have, I don't know, $10,000 swings on average? Probably $4,000 swings on average to get to play with the Scandinavian kids in a tough game. Like, no, I don't need that. I've played plenty of tough games, and it just wasn't worth it. But should you play in hard games to get better? I mean, what I suggest to get better is the shot take. And when you do play that, say you're playing 1-2, 2-5, or 5-10, and you do decide to play the 5-10 game, if there are 2 or 3 bad players there and then 7 good players, it's probably fine, right? Because for all you know, maybe the regs aren't actually that great. Or maybe they're equally good as you, right? The game will be probably tougher than your 2-5 game, but that's fine. And it's okay, right? But the idea of I want to play against very, very good players and lose equity to get better, I don't think necessarily makes sense. I think there's a much slower way to do it, a much more cautious way to do it, that also does not risk your bankroll. Again, this all assumes I don't want to go broke. I'm not trying to go broke. I'm trying to win money. And you win money by investing your money well, but you can still invest your money well and get experience against good players. Let's see. Fred says, with the ace-ace hand, it is because the equity mistake that you have not talked about and the number one mistake small stakes players make. I don't remember exactly what that mistake was. Feel free to type it in. But yes, a big mistake people make is not thinking in terms of equity. Maybe that is the number one mistake. They think, oh, I'm going to lose 60 or 58% of the time. I don't want to put my money in there. Without thinking, I get a free buy-in and a half by calling it off with the aces. Why would you not want a free buy-in and a half? Are you kidding me? That is of equal value as more than a min cash. You're telling me you don't want more than a min cash for free in equity? And in that scenario, it's probably even more valuable because with 5 starting stacks or 6 starting stacks, when everybody else has 1, Like, you're going to cash, and then you're probably going to make a very, very deep run unless things go poorly for you. Short stack is the easiest part of the game if you do your homework. I don't know. As the solvers get better and better at short stack poker, it turns out it's actually pretty freaking tough. But yes, to learn a reasonable short stack strategy, not the optimal one, but to learn a reasonable one is certainly way easier than playing deep stack. Study is way cheaper. PokerCoaching.com will do it. It's true. Everybody can go there and get a completely free trial. When you're grinding 12 hours a day at Bellagio, did you always take a break if you felt tilt coming on? I didn't really feel tilt coming on. That's not a problem that I have for the most part. Would you sometimes play through it? I mean, listen, if you're feeling like you're getting tilty, your emotions are not in check. I mean, and also, if you do get on tilt, quote unquote on tilt, ask, does my game actually suffer? If I'm annoyed, certainly sometimes you get annoyed, right? Say you get it all in with aces 4 times and lose all 4. You're stuck $6,000. You're annoyed. Do you care, though? Will it affect your game? I don't really think it affects my game all that much. If anything, if I'm sitting there losing and still playing well, people are going to think I'm going to be overly aggressive, which is going to lead to them making mistakes. And the idea of tolerance is interesting because I think it's not tolerance you want to develop, it's complete ambivalence to the things that are causing you to tilt that you want to get over. And a lot of this is just a pure mindset issue. I mean, I've worked with Elliot Rowe a decent amount. He's a mindset expert. You can go to pokercoaching.com/primedmind. We have Prime Mind there available, plus some bonuses, lots and lots of bonuses that you can get. And his MP3s have helped me a lot. Also, working on the one-on-one has helped me a lot. And that I didn't really have a whole lot of mental issues. I mean, from talking with him, he says like I'm about as good as they come right off, naturally. But even then, still you get annoyed sometimes. I get annoyed when I play poorly. I get annoyed when really that's the only time I get annoyed whenever I play poorly. But even then, I get over that real quick, and I figured out ways to completely mitigate that by writing down the hand, studying it later. But anyway, should you learn to not play? Should you learn to not get tilted? Yes, you should definitely learn to not get tilted. Let's see. You're already a poker coaching member and like it. Good. That's the goal. We're going to be building it out a lot in the future, too. So we have new big things coming in the very near future. There's going to be even more content for all of you. So bad reg is better than a good rec. Depends on who it is. But yes, in general. Again, like these terms, people think they're clever by putting very generic tags on things. And that's not how poker or life works, right? I mean, for example, some people may do various things very, very well. Some people may play very, very great until they get tilted because they have a huge mindset issue. So do you want that player at your table if they're playing great? Like, no, because they're going to crush you. But if they are terrible when they're on tilt, you definitely want to play with them on tilt. And perhaps you should be even making plays to put them on tilt. Maybe you sacrifice a little bit of equity to try to put them on tilt, right? So you can definitely do things like that. Let's see. You'd love to see a few bad regs and some recreational players. Yeah, of course. Is Jason Mercier a bad reg? No, I think Jason Mercier plays very well. Anyone who has lots and lots and lots of cash games and plays very, very high-stakes poker is probably a very good player. Can you reverse engineer a hand without knowing the villain's whole cards? I'm not exactly sure what you were referring to. But yeah, certainly you can... I'm not even sure what you're asking, Timothy. Make that more clear for me. Let's see. We should have a little coffee on the definitions of poker player types. I mean, it's important to understand tendencies, right? What do they do wrong? For example, if someone's bad, but they're like generally very aggressive in a kind of smart way, you don't want them on your left, but on your right, you love them. So it's important to understand that. Would I make this call? Let's see. 5-6 suited versus ace-king, knowing the person has no pair, and they have half of your stack. Again, you don't know. You didn't list stack size, you didn't list the situation, you listed almost no information. Go to jonathanlittlepoker.com/notes, list it like that, and I will answer it. Let's see. Let's see. In the latest homework, You didn't mention the hero's stack size. Effective stack size is always assumed. You say, surely with a bigger stack, you want to put more pressure on the 30 big blind player. Not if there are no money implications. Not typically. If there are no money implications, then you're just playing the effective stack size. Should you reinvest rake back into your bankroll? I mean, what do you mean reinvest? The rake back is part of your bankroll. Any money you give to the casino goes out of your bankroll. Any money the casino gives you goes into your bankroll. Just joined a local hand history group. They've been really helping you look at hands. Good. Jason Mercier thing was a joke. There was a drama last year where Doug Polk called him a bad reg. Doug Polk enjoys calling lots of people things that are not accurate. Hopefully everyone recognizes that. And some people you just realize they're a joke, right? Some people you just don't take seriously. And, maybe he believes it. I don't know. I don't know what's going through that guy's mind. But people seem to enjoy drama, and he is very good at inciting drama. We try to not incite drama here, though. I'm not a big fan of drama. Because, in my mind, drama is nonsense and it distracts you from the things that actually matter. And, why do I care if Jason Mercier or anybody else is a good player unless I'm specifically playing with him? And if he is a bad player, why would I want to make it known to him that I think he's a bad player? Because let's pretend I have an online database of hands that I played against Jason Mercier, okay? And let's say I'm crushing him. But Jason Mercier is actually kind of not a very good player. He's not keeping track of results. He just likes playing, right? Why would I ever go and tell Jason Mercier, hey, look how bad you are? You think that's going to keep him playing against me? No, he's going to quit. Or he's going to improve, one of the two. And, maybe he keeps playing if he's a degenerate, but if he's already a pretty good winning player and beating everybody else, presumably he'll figure that out. But you typically don't want to make the losing players think that they are losing players. And if Jason Mercier is a good player, he has a database that shows either he's breaking even against you or beating you, well then you're just you're making yourself look like a fool. So either you deny yourself action or you make yourself look like a fool. And why do you want either of those? Doesn't make sense to me. He wants to get clicks. Yeah, a lot of people value clicks. I do know you need many, many, many clicks to make a lot of value, especially if you're attracting negative people, because negative people don't actually care about self-improvement. The way you make money off of clicks is by attracting people who want to better themselves, and you help them better yourselves. Because listen, I make money off of all this stuff, but that's because I'm helping people, right? I would much rather have a smaller audience of people who I can help and provide immense value to in terms of them making more money and bettering their life than a large audience of people who want to tear people down. Because you're not going to make money off people who want to tear people down. It's not how you do it. You make money by adding value. Now, of course, some people view it as comedy. Comedy adds value, right? Nothing wrong with comedy for value. But you have to make a lot of people laugh to make a little bit of money as opposed to making a few people rich and then you make a lot of money. Do you have a system? Timothy, this is the same question. What do you mean by reverse engineer a hand? I don't even know what you mean. Could you get to a place of better breaking down hands away from the table even when you don't know the villain's cards? Yeah, of course. You give your opponents a range. Go to pokercoaching.com. Go through all the homework challenges. Just do that, but for your opponent, right? Let's see. If you play an offshore site, rakeback is often done separately, so you have to choose whether you want to cash it out or deposit it back into the poker site. It doesn't matter, right? If it gets cashed out, it's still your bankroll, unless you're spending it, right? Don't spend your bankroll. Go to jonathanpoker.com/bankroll. Doesn't matter which account they put it in. If you're smart, though, you don't put it in the offshore sites. You put it back in your cash account. Cash accounts are typically more safe than the poker sites. Do you ever get a feeling like you've gotten the wrong or right seat in a tournament based on the exact time you bought in? I get the right seat a lot. A shockingly high amount of the time. I, and most of the best pros in the world who understand how registration systems work, get the best seat almost all the time. I mean, very rare. And look, if you do show up, and let's say you do buy in early, you look around the table, there's 7 bad players and 3 good players, and the 3 good players are between you, you got a bad seat. Such is life. But even then, you're still at a good table. Do you plan on playing the opening events? I'm playing, my first World Series event is a $10,000 turbo tournament. My second event is a $5,000 regular tournament. Third event is a $1,000 bounty, and then I'm coming back home. Are events like $500 appealing because they are marketed in such a way to attract players? Absolutely not. Too small for me to go out of my way to do it because, Ghost of M, what is my return on investment in the $500 tournament? Let's presume it is 100%, a lot, right? Let's presume it's 100%. Would I rather make $500 in a day, or would I rather take an off day and be well prepared to play the 10K the next day or the 5K the next day, where I expect to have 30% or 40% ROI? So let's assume I have 40% ROI in a 5K. That is $2,000, right? I'd much rather make $2,000 and just make sure I'm maximizing that. That's it. And also, I don't want to be there when the place is packed. I played the Colossus or whatever they called it one year, and it was just packed. I did not enjoy myself. I couldn't go to the bathroom. I couldn't get any food, and I just don't need that in my life. So I'm not going to play it, but I definitely do think they are very high value, and if that is the bankroll you're playing with, you definitely should be in there. Here opens a 6K under the gun. The button, 3 bets of 26K. Min raise, shove, or flat. Definitely don't min raise. Min raise would be awful. I think folding's actually possible. I mean, whenever this guy re-raises big, you think he'd have a very strong range. Maybe he's polarized. If you think he's very polarized, it's probably best to call and then not put your money in on Ace-XX boards or King-Queen-X boards. If you think he has too many bluffs, you should definitely just jam. If you think his range is very strong, maybe fold. I don't know. It's certainly possible to fold if you think the guy's range is strong. Any advice on getting a good seat in the World Series main? Does the satellite advice work in such a big field? I mean, perhaps it does, but fortunately in such a big field, you don't really care because almost everyone's bad. The way it typically works is there are about 500 to 1,000 very, very good players in the world, okay? Obviously not all in the same place at the same time. So essentially, if there are more than 500 or so players in a tournament, any excess above 500 is almost definitively losing money. Those players are losing money, right? And you know if you're in the top 500 or not. But if you are, then that's a good way to figure out if tournaments are soft or not. So very often, high-stakes tournaments that have relatively few players are very, very tough, right? Because they have 40 people and only like 2 or 3 bad players. Like the super high roller tournaments that happen at Aria a lot, right? They have 2 or 3 bad players and 30 or 40 really good players. That's not really a game where you're going to have a high ROI. But if you're in the main event of the World Series, all 1,000 good players will be there. But then also 7,000 or 8,000 not so good players. And they vary in degree of badness or negative ROI, right? They vary in that, but still they're all not going to be good. So if you're in a field of 1,000 good players and 7,000 bad players, well, do the math, right? You're going to be in a pretty good spot. That said, you do get to pick your day you play on. Very often 1C is the softest for a few reasons we won't get into, but day 1C is very often the softest. That said, I'm playing 1A almost certainly, which is often not the softest, but that is because I don't think the equity difference is all that much, and I am willing to give up some amount of money to play on a slightly more difficult day because I have something planned on day 1C. We're having a breakfast for all of you, and then I have a quote-unquote retreat for me and my team, so that'll be fun. Most of your bankroll is held in a crypto wallet. Don't keep your money in crypto. That would be a mistake most of the time. Sometimes it makes it tough to figure out your big blind per hour. Do most people count rake back into that number? Yes, you absolutely should. What do I think about Annette Oberstad winning a tournament 15 years ago without seeing her cards? Zip info on her range. Well, she knows her range. Well, she knows her range is 100% of hands, obviously, right? So that's what you know. I don't exactly know the scenario. Basically, she played a bunch of online tournaments, won one without looking at the cards. Good for her. Back then, the game was really soft. Back then, also, you could just push around people very easily. They didn't understand how to properly defend. Kevin says she's playing their range, not their cards. Yeah, I'm sure she's playing their range and also the scenarios. When she has a bigger stack, she pushes around stacks like you should, right? She knows how to play ICM. She's a good sit-and-go/tournament player. BitK went over 6K as of yesterday. Haha. I wonder why Kevin's laughing. Obviously, Bitcoin is going to swing a lot, up and down and up and down and up and down. And all of you know, you do not want variance in your poker bankroll. I've had, I don't even know, probably 50 people, literally 50 people have emailed me saying, man, I'm really crushing the poker games, but I kept all my money in crypto. This is over the last 6 months or 6 months or a year. And they lost 2/3 of their money. Because it went down from like 15K or 20K down to 5 or 4 or whatever it is. And these are people who would have been up lots of money, but they instead took their whole poker bankroll and kept it in an incredibly volatile asset. Now, volatility is fine if you're trying to get rich quick or die trying, but you don't want to die trying. You really, really, really don't want to die trying. And for that reason, you typically want to keep it in a very stable asset. And you can look at various poker sites based on their perceived stability, by the way. So sites like PokerStars, Party Poker are viewed to be incredibly stable, right? They're not going to go bankrupt anytime soon. If something happens, they're going to cash you out. The sites that operate legally licensed, etc., within America, like WorldSeries.com, Borgata, whatever, those are all very, very stable. You're going to get cashed out. Some of the sites that are perhaps not licensed, not legal, whatever, you're less likely to get cashed out. So that makes that less and less stable. Let's see. I think a lot of people really they like glamorify people who get glamify. I don't know what that word is. They really admire people who randomly get lucky or people who make good decisions, right? One thing I've learned over my short time here is that you want to buy stuff when it's in the dumpster and you want to sell it when it's on the top of the mountain. Whenever things are very high, when they're hyped up, you do not want to be in it. Sure, it might go up more, but look at all graphs of everything. When they start going exponential, they come back down. And that's obvious. It happens. You want to buy stuff when it's cheap. Poker says, buy gold. I got punished on gold. This was one of my good lessons a long time ago. I think I bought it when it was like $1,400 a long time ago. I bought a decent chunk. Then it went down to like $800 or something like this, and then it sat there forever, and it's just slowly trickled back up. I would not say gold's in the dumpster. Gold will be in the dumpster when it's down to like 400. That's it. I don't know. Purely speculation. And anyway, a lot of people love saying if you bought it at the perfect time, you would be up a lot. Well, yeah, obviously, if you buy anything at the perfect time, you'd be up a lot. If you folded every time you were beat in poker, you'd be up a lot. But you don't know. That's the thing, is you just don't know. People just don't know. Where's it going to be in 20 years? People just don't know. Right? We do know most countries will continue printing currency, so you probably don't want to be in currency. You want to be in assets, and ideally you want to be in assets that tend to trickle up. The safest way to do this, in my opinion, is to do ETFs, right? Like I have lots of my money's in Wealthfront, which basically is like Vanguard funds to some extent that are perfectly balanced. It all goes up about 6 to 8% a year consistently. Whew, nice straight line. You want a nice straight line, and you don't want lots and lots of jig-jags. People saying commodities are good. I mean, maybe. Problem with commodities are they don't pay dividends, right? The big problem with gold, big problem with Bitcoin, big problem with all these things is that they don't spin off money. You would much rather be investing in yourself, and you'd much rather be investing in assets that are essentially guaranteed to spin off money. Things like stocks that either pay dividends or that are very aggressive reinvesting in themselves. Things like real estate you can rent. Things that spin off money are fantastic because, well, take an apartment, right? If you can buy an apartment for $100K, rent it out for $600 a month, you get paid $6,000 a year just for sitting there, right? You get $6K a year after what, 15 years? You got the house for free. Your asset is doubled, even if the base price of it is not doubled. And that's it. All right, Instagram's saying I have to go. Again, I'm not a financial advisor. I don't know anything about this stuff. But all I can do is tell you what I have learned. When things are spiking, get out. When they're in the dumpster, buy in. The problem is it's hard to know when they're in the dumpster. How far down can it go? That's the thing a lot of people don't quite understand. And now I'm sure that I've said this. I told people to get out of crypto. They're going to get out of the crypto, and then it's going to go up to $15,000 tomorrow for Bitcoin. But those are the breaks. You cannot time the market. That is the theory, at least. All right, have fun. Good job. Good luck. Enjoy yourselves.